Catholic Church that was persecuting the Cathars, the original Christian group of people who were preserving the truth. The Catholic Church tried to destroy all the knowledge, wiped out all those books, burned the Alexandrian library, persecuted the true followers of Christ, and sent them underground. This is why they came to America, friends. But why do they have 33 degrees? Well, in the Kabbalah, or the Tree of Life, the Sephiroth, there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and there are 10 spheres, or Sephiroth, which is the foundations of all things. And 10 and 22 is 33. Once you obtain the 33 degree, so during the Middle Ages, many religious movements went underground for the reasons that we've been explaining, friends. Because they had to survive. Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalah were basically Hermetic revelations from Egypt. This is what it is, friends. You know, handing down of tradition. Same thing that Plato, Pythagoras, John the Baptist, and these groups such as the Essenes, the Nazarenes that Jesus was a member of. Look at the book of Acts, friends. Jesus was a member of the sect of the Nazarenes, and Paul was the ringleader, it says, in the book of Acts. So these Hermetic revelations came from Egypt, and they became Templars, a notion to rebuild Solomon's temple. The Rosicrucians wanted to build the New Atlantis, a utopian city they would bring about upon the earth, much like in Egypt, like a new Heliopolis. Now, since Great Britain and France were foes, you know, they were enemies, on into the 19th century, the French section of Freemasonry wanted its own identity. So they appeared to make close ties with the American Masons, leading to the American Revolution. So Paris, once again, which has ties to ISIS. We talked about the name Paris, coming from Fauri, Isis, or Paris. And it's reported that the temple of Isis used to be where Saint Germain des Prés stands, which is a nearby city. Paresis translates to near the temple of Isis. And so, most of you who've done any research or have been around in the last few years have probably heard of Saint Germain. The New Age teachings talk a lot about him and so forth. This is real history, friends. It goes back into the Dark Ages. And these were real heroes of the secret societies and the Hermetic teachings. And so a lot of us Christians, we think, oh, Saint Germain, that must be some, sorcerer of the old times. I mean, they're talking about evil things and we don't want anything to do with that. Well, friends, how many of you know about Sir Isaac Newton? Do you know that he studied this Hermetic teaching, the esoteric knowledge? Do you know that he studied the Gnostic Cathar doctrine far more than he studied science itself? That's right. That's right, friends. All these people that we revere, that came up with all the wisdom and knowledge of the last centuries, they were all Gnostic secret society people. You see. So I don't condemn the president, George W. Bush, just because he was in a secret society. That's not it at all. In fact, almost everybody of any renown or name was involved in the secret societies, for friends. Everybody. Our presidents, all of them. Anyone that's done anything that you can imagine, many things that were done which appeared to be good for mankind. How could you imagine that a man such as Sir Isaac Newton could be anything but sincere? Sir Isaac Newton was a very staunch Christian and taught history. Do you know that he wrote many writings on the interpretation of the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel. You know that he thought that the world would come into the latter days, would go into the time of the end, and it would all be over in the year 2060, friends. These are teachings of Sir Isaac Newton. So, we really got to rethink all of this stuff, friends. Really got to rethink all of this. People like Descartes and, well, we just talked about Pythagoras and Plato and Socrates and Hippocrates. Even those of you who probably would never think that you would want anything to do with one of these secret societies and anybody who is involved with it. Maybe you're a Jehovah's Witness and you want nothing to do with these secret societies. Do you not know that your own founder was a member of the secret societies? A 33-degree member? The Mormons are very familiar with this, and they understand a lot of this, and they know that they're involved in Masonry. But many of you people out there, such as Baptists, do you know that Billy Graham was a 33-degree Mason? Friends, we're going to have to figure out what this is all about. We're going to have to know the truth about this. Because if this is such a big secret, then the answer to this secret may certainly open up some truth to us that will be worth our while. In fact, it may open our mind to something that could completely revolutionize our life. There's got to be something to this, friends. It's either the greatest conspiracy for the downfall of all mankind, or they're fighting something very wicked upon this earth, which is the darkness within your own mind, which is being perpetuated by this book and by these priests called Catholic priests, who are sitting in some monastery somewhere. And what are they learning? Are they scientists? Do they know the truth? How would they know? Who told them that what they're preserving is right? Why should they preserve some simple ceremonies and some basic doctrines that were forced upon the world in some ecumenical councils in the Dark Ages? When the Catholic Church was wiping out and burning all the books of knowledge and wisdom in the world. How would we and why would we want to believe some monk in a black robe sitting somewhere in a monastery who's never even really read any science book or done any critical thinking? Or why would we believe groups like Seventh-day Adventists who followed a woman who claimed to have such great revelation that she thought the world would come to an end in 1844, but was wrong? Friends, we're going to have to open our eyes now. All of you Adventists, open your eyes and do some research. Even your own prophet, Ellen White, talked about the Cathars and said they were the true Christians. She said the Albigensians who died and were murdered by the Catholics were the true Christians, friends. And of course, the Albigensians are those ancient Cathars. You better open up your mind, friends, in fear of the fact that you may be swallowed up in this ignorance that you're hanging on to. Now, get this, friends. Take note of this. In 1635, the city of Tournai, an ancient tomb was found, and it was filled with statues of Isis, a head of an Apis bull, and 300 golden bees. And bees are symbols of the ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Well, again, in the Mormon Church, which we all know is steeped in Masonry, their symbol for the Mormon Church is the bee, or the state of Utah. You'll see the bee on their little signs as you're going down the road. You see, they trace their ancient wisdom and knowledge back to the ancient Egyptian knowledge, which was the knowledge of Joseph that came into Egypt and the priesthood there. So the eye of the pyramid is actually not originally an Illuminati symbol. It's actually something that is, Hermetics of the 16th century. The same year the Illuminati were created, 1776, the U.S. used the eye of the pyramid as its symbol for the Great Seal. You think that's a fluke, friends? You think it's just a coincidence? No, absolutely not. One thing is certain, friends. Thomas Jefferson knew of Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Illuminati. He knew of this organization. He spoke of it in a letter that he wrote. As for public records, they show that the Illuminati broke up in Germany after their persecution. Some feel they infiltrated the Masonic lodges of France, and then they were the masterminds behind political arrests, and that led to the French Revolution 5 years later. They were always secretive, and they often traveled around incognito, and so you really don't know what's going on. This history is very obscure. Sometimes they were called noble travelers. So in 1778, Louis XVI called a meeting, and he called for 3 estates. There was the one which was the noble estate, then there was the clergy, then there was the people. Well, it was a pamphlet by Emmanuel Joseph Size, which is Anne Size, who was a known Mason. And she asked, what is the 3rd estate if there's 98% of the population but 0% of the vote? So they overturned the government, friends. And then a lot of the people joined in this National Assembly to help overthrow the king, who was later beheaded. Well, his wife, Queen Marie Antoinette, warned her cousin Emperor Leopold II of Austria to take heed of all the Masonic associations. She said they intended to do this in other countries as well, overthrow the governments. During all this, a statue of the Egyptian goddess Isis was erected to commemorate this occasion, along with a coin with Isis's face, which was the first commemorative coin issued in France. In 1793 to 1794, this was a very disturbing, bad time in France. This was the time of the cult of reason, and it was introduced to bring down the church. So they made the Notre Dame Cathedral the Temple of Reason. Well, after the Second Revolution of France and after Napoleon's reign, and this obsession with Egypt, a culture renaissance began, and many Egyptian-themed monuments were erected, and obelisks. Have you noticed there's an obelisk in Washington, D.C.? This is an Egyptian obelisk, friends. The Louvre Pyramid, statues of Isis were placed everywhere in many cities. It also appears that a newly renovated Paris was mapped after the ancient city of Thebes and Luxor. Interestingly, the Hermetic philosopher Tommaso Campanella had predicted in 1638 that Paris would become the city of the sun in Egypt. Well, this also was taking place in America, friends, as they came over here to seek refuge and to flee persecution. The Statue of Liberty was also Isis, friends. That's what the Statue of Liberty is. We've been duped. She is the goddess of liberty and reason for her time. Definitely a Masonic symbol, friends. In 1884, they laid the cornerstone, and in 1984, the Grand Masters laid a bronze plaque signifying the statue was of liberty, enlightening the world. Ironically, friends, this original ceremony was on August the 5th, which happens to be the Egyptian stretching of the cord day, which was performed at dawn at a time of the helical rising of Cyrus, the dog star associated with Osiris and Isis. So when they asked why the Freemasons were called to lay the cornerstone of the Statue of Liberty, Grand Master William Brodie replied, "No other organization has ever done more to promote liberty and to liberate man